ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Star Wars 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today, we're going to be taking a look at none other than Jango Fett, based off his appearance in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now, the release for this guy hasn't necessarily been a super smooth one. Hot Toys first showed off the prototype many years ago at various Comic Cons, then they put him up for pre-order, and finally he is now here. The wait has been long, but hopefully it was worth it. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys review goes live on the channel. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art, and it's done in the usual Star Wars style. A massive image of the figure himself front and center, as well as a silver foil Star Wars logo. Down below you have the wraparound banner that they sometimes use and sometimes don't. Another image of the figure, this time with the unmasked head sculpt, as well as specially feature. Not exactly sure how this managed to squeak through. Whoever is doing the spell and grammar checks over at Hot Toys needs to do a few more. On the side of the box we do have another image of Jango Fett, and then all of the various warnings are printed on the back. Now, on the inside is where you always get the real artwork. Another image of Jango, this time in action, with the blast effects attached to his jetpack. Now, I do own the Sideshow version of Jango, so I am very curious to do some comparisons. And don't worry, that's exactly what we'll be doing throughout the course of the video. Now, Jango Fett himself is covered in a bunch of plastic, which is a good thing because his armor is super shiny. You wouldn't want this getting scratched up in transit. You do have one clam tray up on top and another down below. So what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now, I don't mean to complain, but Hot Toys? Really? The Imperial style flooring for Jango Fett? Couldn't you all have given him a new base topper that was the landing pad from Camino? You could have done some water effects on the surface to make it look like it's raining. But unfortunately, they didn't. It's the tried and true rectangular style base. Jango Fett etched into a metal nameplate, and then we have a dynamic flight pole plus a spring-loaded waist clamp. Do be careful when you use this, the spring is very strong, and the points at the front of this waist clamp are quite sharp, so they might just dig into the outfit, and the area where you'd clamp this around him is made of pleather. This wouldn't be Jango Fett without his two jetpacks. Now, you do get two completely different styles. One that's larger, more reminiscent of Boba Fett from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. This one we saw on Coruscant and Camino. The smaller of the two he wore when he perished on Geonosis. Some people get confused and think this one is the one he wore when he fought Mace Windu. Check Attack of the Clones and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, this actually is my favourite of the two. The paint applications are suitably vibrant, there's dirt and grime on the surface, as well as a few spots where you can make out some Arabesh. You do even have some scratches on the back, which is crazy because that's not something you're ever really going to see. Now, to make the jetpack actually look like it's activated, you do have some blast effects. They're cast in translucent yellow plastic, and they do get a little bit more fiery towards the thruster sections. Now, you can rotate said thrusters forward and back, so you can angle the blast. Now, that's not all. You can also remove the rocket, insert this blast effect up top, and then peg the rocket back in. And now it looks like Jango has launched his rocket. With the jetpack fully kitted out, yeah, I really like the way this looks. Now, in comparison, the smaller jetpack is much simpler. It's blue and silver, which means yes, it is going to fit in with his color scheme, but I can't help myself, I love the bright flashy colors of the bigger one. Now of course you can take those very same blast effects and peg them into the smaller jetpack. For some reason though, the fit is a lot tighter. You also don't have any articulation on the thrusters, they are fixed in place. Now you do have some dirt and grime around the edges, but it's nowhere near as weathered as the big one. At the end of the day, they both kind of do the same thing, so it's going to be down to personal preference which one you prefer. Just quickly before we move on, I know we've discussed the jetpacks, but this blast effect doesn't work with this smaller jetpack. Now, that doesn't mean you're SOL. If you do remove the rocket, you can use one of the jetpack blast effects and slot it in place, so yes, it does still look like he's firing this rocket. This isn't something that's officially sanctioned and mentioned in the instructions, but I thought I'd show it anyway. While we're on the subject of effects, you do get one more, and it's a good one. It's for his flamethrower. It pegs into his gauntlet, it is translucent with a subtle blue tinge towards one end, and it gets all kinds of fiery towards the other. Don't worry, we will be trying this out on the figure later on. One accessory that won't take very long to look at is the poncho. It's literally a piece of material, there are a couple of pleats sewn in up the top, some press studs to keep it in place, and a wire that runs around the edge, front and back. You do of course have a hole for his head, and just like the flamethrower, we will be trying this on the figure a little bit later. As with any new figure, this guy isn't without just a little bit of controversy. This time it comes in the form of the unhelmeted head sculpt. Some people have said the likeness isn't there and that it's a lackluster sculpt. For me, it definitely isn't. Now, I might be in the minority there. The skin texture, the paint applications, and yes, the likeness, it checks a lot of my boxes. Now, compared to Commander Cody, I do still think the likeness is better with Cody. But I am curious, do let me know which of these sculpts you prefer down below. And to bring a third one in the mix, here is Captain Rex. Don't forget, these are all supposed to be the exact same person. But to me, somehow Captain Rex has the best likeness of the three, which is crazy because he has short blonde hair. Now this head sculpt does have an additional party piece. You do get this radio headgear. It's made of a very flexible rubbery plastic, you can probably see where this is going. There are a couple of buckles around the back, and you do have some dry brushing on the edges. Now, to install it on the sculpt, you have to do something that I'm not a huge fan of. You have to flex it and then push it down over the sculpt. When you pop it on though, I think the likeness is improved immediately. Now it is a little bit big and bulky over the ears, but for something that slots over the top of a head sculpt, yeah, it does look very seamless. And just like a couple of those other pieces, we will be trying this out with the headgear on the body later on. Two accessories that they absolutely had to nail were his Westar blaster pistols. These look very mean. They're a nice chrome shiny silver and you have some gold down in the crevices. They are super clean, but in the movie I think they looked that clean. Now unfortunately, they missed a trick here. With Sideshow, they had these blast effects for either smoke or an actual blast. Now, I would have loved to have seen Hot Toys do this. Unfortunately, no. I did try. These blast effects cannot fit in the barrels of the Hot Toys guns. The blast pegs are simply too big. So at the end of the day, I do prefer the look of the Hot Toys blasters, but I do prefer the blast effects that came with Sideshows. We have seen something like this before with Mando, and it works exactly the same way here. You have a proper metal rod connecting to a very small grappling hook. This will literally just slot in place and look like he's fired his grappling line. Simple, yet very effective. If you'll remember, when Jango was battling Obi-Wan on Kamino, he did extend these blades from his gauntlet to slow his descent as he was sliding down one of the platforms. Now, this is a swap-out piece that magnetizes onto his gauntlet, and you do have some rubbery hoses that extend up into his sleeve. For the most part, this does look really good, and you can still remove the teeny tiny little saber dart. It does peg in nice and securely, but the best part about you having one here is that you have a spare one in case you lose the one that's already attached to his gauntlet. My only complaint here is that the blade does look very thick. I don't exactly know how much cutting this blade is supposed to do, but I am glad it is a little bit thicker, so it is slightly sturdier. If this was any thinner, yes, it would be slightly more fragile. This is a bit of a deep cut, but I am all for it. You have a swap-out dome piece for his helmet. Now, some people believe this dent was caused by the ramp on Slave 1. Jango unfortunately bumps his noggin. But that isn't actually the case. If you check out the website, The Dented Helmet, there's a whole forum explaining where this dent came from, why it happened. It was a bit of a CGI mishap, but they kind of just stuck with it. Either way, this dome piece can swap out onto the top of his helmet. It's very simple to do, it's of course magnetic. Don't worry, just like I've said already a bunch of times for the other accessories, we will be trying this out. You do also get a bunch of these smaller accessories. Starting off with this one first, it's the cylindrical capsule containing the toxic worms that Jango hands to Zam Wesell on Coruscant. Now, it is just painted in glossy black plastic. I would have absolutely loved to have seen the worms on the inside, but I totally understand why they didn't. These two pieces, though, I'm not exactly sure what they are. Now, I'm a huge Jango Fett fan, I've even played the Bounty Hunter game, but I don't remember these from anywhere. Do let me know if you know what these are supposed to be. Maybe I've missed something. It's been a while since I've seen Attack of the Clones. But even then, these are some very small and peculiar pieces. Lastly, they do give you 4 extra hands. Yeah, only 4. I'm not exactly sure why they're being stingy with the hand selections, but at the very least they are necessary ones. I do like the sculpting, they actually look like padded gloves with some wrinkles and stitching, and they are painted in a very nice navy blue. What we are going to do now though is get Jango Fett himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And for a moment, just bear with me. I want to regale you with a tale from my youth. When I was a young lad, I went to the cinema to see Attack of the Clones for the first time. I'd never seen any of the marketing, nor had I seen any of the trailers. So when I sat down and I saw this guy on the big screen for the first time ever, my life was immediately changed. This design for a character became my all-time favorite design for any character in any film ever. And to this day, he still ranks very, very highly. But that just sets the stage for how excited I was to receive this figure. I have been waiting a very long time. And Hot Toys, y'all have delivered the goods. I am one very happy Jango Fett fan. Now, he might not be 100% perfect, it's all down to personal preference, but he definitely does it for me. What we are going to do now, though, is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. Now in just a second we will be trying the unhelmeted head sculpt, the poncho, and the secondary jetpack. But before we do that, we have to talk about this absolutely stunning helmet. I love the shape, I love the size, and how it fits in proportion to the rest of the body. It does sit slightly lower, giving him a very mean and menacing look. Now, they have done a separate high gloss black for the visor, and I think the helmet is all the better for it. The blue around the front is 2 different shades. You've got a darker blue on the inside of the mandibles, and it's lighter up the front, plus you have some pitting along the edges. You also have a ton of pitting on the bright chrome silver, and you do have a proper moving and working rangefinder. But that's not all. You can remove the top section of the dome and switch it out for the dented one. This one is slightly more pitted, but that makes sense seeing as though it's dented. Now around the back I have gone with his first jetpack. This is my favourite. I love the paint applications like we discussed earlier, but I don't love the way it connects to the body. Seeing as though they have the magnets there, I don't really understand why they've gone with the clips. But if you are wondering what he looks like with the other jetpack on, with this jetpack being significantly smaller, from the front you can't even really tell he has one on, but the shape and size is accurate to the one he wore on Geonosis. Now I prefer the other one, I know I've said it a bunch of times, but this one's colour scheme does better match with the rest of the armour. Speaking of which, it is painted in the same gorgeous bright chrome silver as the helmet, plus you have all of that pitting over the top. It is also permanently attached to this pleather vest. Now, right now, I love it. It looks really good. It's a nice deep rich blue. It's made up of multiple pieces, including one upper flap section and then a piece underneath that as well. But it is made of pleather, and as we know, pleather tends to flake. More on that a little bit later on. Now the flight suit is all made of fabric, so that means in the legs and the arms we should be able to go crazy with our posing. Now we will be discussing the colour of the flight suit when we bring the sideshow figure out here. You do have an asymmetrical design for the gauntlets. One side has the dart launcher and the flamethrower, and the other has the Kaminoan saber dart, plus this removable section. The hoses don't actually connect to anything, they simply slot into the sleeve, and then you can magnetically peg this one in place. I said peg because you actually do have some pegs as well. It's a very secure connection. The difference here though is now you have the blades. These look awesome. They are a little bit thick as we discussed in the accessory segment, but for the most part when you have them on, yeah, I really like the way that looks. Now around the front you do have his brown leather belt. Now this is once again made of pleather and it's very clean. Considering the rest of his armor is completely disheveled, I was expecting a little bit of wear and tear, but from a distance, yes, it still looks the part. I do have his Westar blasters slotted into the holsters. This was no easy feat to accomplish. They do slot in here very, very securely, so just be careful when you are pulling them in and out. Now I am worried about the longevity of these holsters, but only time will tell. Now coming down to the legs, once again a regular fabric undersuit plus all of these armor plates that are attached with Velcro. So technically, if you don't like the way they're positioned, you can remove them and place them back on in the spot that you want them to be. Coming down to his boots, these are a really interesting design. They've got a very strong arch to them and some fully sculpted in tread down below. Plus, they aren't super high, so you still get a decent range of motion. But if you are wondering what he looks like with the unhelmeted head sculpt on, now, even though some people don't love this head sculpt on the body, I personally am starting to really like it. It's not too big, it's not too small, and everything looks as though it's in proportion. You also have a proper sculpted and painted skin tone neck. Now, usually if you have a character with a helmet on, when you pop the helmet on, the suit continues up on the inside. This time, they've given you this little sock piece that you slide over the neck, so when you have him wearing the helmet, it's fully seamless, and when you take it off, you can see the collar for the suit underneath. That is something I think is genius. Hopefully going forward with characters like Spider-Man that have had the same issue previously, they work out some kind of compromise just like we see right here. Then of course we have the poncho and the headgear. Now the headgear I can absolutely see myself using in the display. I think it helps the likeness and it adds for something a little bit different as compared to the other Tamura Morrison head sculpts. The poncho though, even though it's fully wired and made of a very nice material, covers up a vast majority of the outfit. And let's be honest, we are buying Jango Fett because of his badass armor. So for me personally, covering it up just isn't the way to go. Do let me know what you think of this poncho though, down in the comments below. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have Sideshow Jango on the right and Hot Toys Jango on the left. And interestingly enough, even though these are both 1/6 scale versions of the same character, there are a ton of differences. Starting off with the bodies. Hot Toys is bigger, it's bulkier, and it's way more proportionate. It actually looks like a dude in a suit. And his neck is ever so slightly longer, so you can tilt his helmet forward, giving him this very mean and menacing look. Whereas with Sideshow, the neck is shorter and the helmet always has to be looking up, otherwise he starts to look like he's got no neck at all. The flight suit is something that I wasn't really expecting. Hot Toys leans more towards blue, whereas Sideshow leans more towards purple. Now, this debate has been raging on for years. People say that his flight suit was blue, and people say that his flight suit was purple. Now, Medicom actually took this and ran with it and made a blue version and a purple version. So technically, either one is accurate, but also neither at the same time. I think Hot Toys got closer to my mind's eye depiction of Jango, but once again it is down to your personal preference. I would love in the future to get a Toy Fair exclusive purple variant, but for now, yeah, I'm going to give the win quite comfortably to Hot Toys. Next up, here we have him alongside the man that recruited him in the first place, Darth Tyrannus, aka Count Dooku. And as you can see, Dooku is a very tall dude. I'm of the mind that having a bunch of different sizes and scales of figures in the collection always makes for a more interesting display, so this absolutely works for me. Also, I do believe this is accurate, but it also raises another very interesting question. Aside from Count Dooku, who else are we supposed to display him with? We currently don't have a Hot Toys Mace Windu, and we don't have an Episode 2 Obi-Wan. So all of those very scene-specific Obi-Wan Camino fight accessories that we get here, we can't really yet use. So I'm hoping that's Hot Toys hinting that Obi-Wan and Mace Windu aren't too far off. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I am willing to go. Now starting off with the head sculpt, it's on a ball joint up underneath and at the base of the neck. Looking forward to there, going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. The arms will go out to there. They will go forward and back on soft ratchets, butterfly joint at the shoulder that also hinges up and down, swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow that does get you past 90, and a regular 1/6 scale wrist peg. The torso will crunch forward and back just a little, swivel and pivot side to side. The legs will go forward to there, they will go out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, double bend at the knee that is on soft ratchets, and lastly a double ball peg down here for the ankle. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is Hot Toys once again decided to use these stupid little clips. Now you'll be sitting there for a very long time trying to get them to peg onto the jetpack rather than just having a super sturdy magnet. Now the magnet they used just isn't strong enough. So yes, you are going to have to rely on those clips to keep the jetpack in place. The second annoying thing is the overabundance of pleather. Up here for the vest section behind the armor, pleather. The belt, pleather. The holsters, also pleather. I was hoping that at the very least, the belt pieces and these holster sections could have been sculpted plastic, just painted to look like leather, but at the end of the day, a couple of these pieces could be degrading over time. The third annoying thing technically isn't a big deal. It's this secondary flap right here. I looked at a bunch of high-res reference pics of Tamura Morrison in the suit, and this secondary flap just simply didn't exist. I don't know what kind of reference material Hot Toys were using, but this really shouldn't be here. The first cool thing is the use of magnets for the switch-out pieces for the gauntlets. They are very sturdy. This piece pegs on super securely, and even when you go ahead and move this around, it's really not going anywhere. The second cool thing is that when you use the head sculpt, you do have this removable neck cover. Now we've seen Hot Toys do helmeted figures previously that do have unhelmeted head sculpts, but this might be the first time ever that I've seen a little sock piece to cover up a fully painted neck, so it looks completely seamless either with the helmet on or with the helmet off. And of course, I'm sure to nobody's surprise, the third cool thing is the switch out dome for the helmet. One dented and one completely smooth. They connect very securely with a nice strong magnet, and they sit completely flush. If someone told you that the top part of the helmet could detach, and you weren't familiar with the figure, honestly, you probably wouldn't believe them. It looks so darn seamless. Just wrapping up on the Hot Toys Jango Fett from Attack of the Clones. Now, going into this, I, number one, told you how excited I was, but number two, gave you a brief backstory about me and how much this character means to me. At the end of the video, can I say that he met my very high expectations? Yeah, absolutely. Hot Toys nailed it. Starting off with the helmet, it's on point. Plus, you have the interchangeable dent piece. Come on, that's just Hot Toys flexing, and I love it. The body, the proportions, it actually looks like a dude in a suit. Now, some people may say that the blue flight suit is inaccurate. I personally really like it, but if you prefer the purple look, Medicom and Sideshow have got you covered. But they don't come with anywhere near as many swap out pieces as this guy, nor do they look as realistic. Plus, I think the paint applications on the Hot Toys armor are better all around. So at the end of the day, if you have one of the other versions and you're considering upgrading, yeah, I think it's a good idea. You're not going to be disappointed. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. If you do like the sound of your name featuring in the end credits of my reviews, check out the join button right next to that subscribe icon for more info on Justin's Collection plus Max, the YouTube channel memberships. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.